Alright, folks, this week is gonna be a little bit chaotic, I would say, when it comes to these predictions throughout this week. We have our guild predictions, that's gonna be today's video, on the day that is being released of the Golden Globes. So, whatever I'm predicting here is obviously not going to be kind of going coincidental with the Globes here because of all four of the guilds going in a span of 4 days with their nomination announcements. There's the Critics' Choice official winner predictions, and then there's, of course, the BAFTA nomination predictions, which, of course, the long list was just released this past Friday, and then, of course, the final Oscar nomination predictions. In today's video, obviously, as you can tell, we are, specifically for me, I am predicting the 4 guild awards that will be happening with their nomination announcements throughout Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday will be the Directors Guild. Wednesday will be the Screen Actors Guild. Thursday will be the Writers Guild. And Friday will be the Producers Guild. These nominations for the guilds and the BAFTA long list of all those candidates we saw that are going to be up for the BAFTA nominations, these are the ones that are going to really help us the most when it comes to the Oscar nominations, because the BAFTA nomination specifically is not going to matter as much, because since the BAFTA nominations will be announced 2 days before the Oscar nominations. So unless if you are a big award show predictor and manage to get a lot of views, that's the big thing, you get your predictions immediately the day before. But for some small people, they have to get it before the BAFTA nomination. So it is a little bit chaotic, but man, everything is coming around here. So like I did with the Globes and Critics' Choice prediction nominations-wise, I am going to be doing the guilds here in that specific order of when they are announcing their nominations. We'll be doing the Directors Guild first, then the Screen Actors Guild, then the Writers Guild, and then the Producers Guild. So let's start up with the Directors Guild Award nomination predictions. Now, I know there are 3 categories that are here in the Directors Guild. There's obviously the main Best Director, the First Time Feature Director, and Best Documentary Director. However, I am not predicting the Documentary Director Award, same thing that's going on in the Awards Expert, because you don't know who is going to get nominated for documentary, for specifically Best Director for Documentary, at the Directors Guild. Same thing with the Writers Guild, because you don't know what's eligible or not. It is like kind of questioning. Although we already have the Producers Guild nominees for documentary feature, it is kind of hard to predict those specific nominations, those two award shows. So instead, for the Directors Guild, it will just be for First Time Feature and, of course, the Best Director in general. So for First Time Feature, I have Pio Kabadia for All We Imagine Is Light, Sean Wan for Didi, Rich Papiat for Kneecap, Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys, and Greg Ecuador for Sing Sing. Now, it is very interesting that for directors that have already made movies with documentaries, they don't really consider documentaries apparently a first-time feature. They only consider a narrative film. So, obviously, Kapadia, Ross, and Papiat have all been directors for documentaries in the past, but this is their first narrative feature. So it is kind of odd, like, that they don't really consider documentaries legit featured films for some reason as a first-time debut. That's just odd. So that's just kind of odd. But those are the 3 I feel like I am the most confident in. And then for Best Director in general, I have Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, Edward Berger for Conclave, Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2, and Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. I feel like we know the 4 of them are going to make it. Obviously, Corbett, Berger, Baker, and Audiard, and Villeneuve is just going to be that 5th slot, but still is not going to get the Oscar nomination. Although he is actually... Obviously, these are the 5 that are in the male nominees in the BAFTA long list for directors. So Villeneuve could be in a possibility to get in for BAFTA. And it's odd that I do not have a woman in this category, but I feel like, obviously, a lot of the times the directors will get 4 of the same, but 1 difference. And last year, they didn't have Justine Triet or Jonathan Glazer because of the international audience. Now, that could almost mean the reason because there's probably not a lot of international members of the Directors Guild at the moment that I can think of, although Bong Joon-ho and Alfonso Cuarón were nominated for Parasite and Roma. I don't think Cordelia Forjat won't make it in. I think she would be the miss here, but still get the Oscar nomination. After when John M. Chu missed the long list for BAFTA, I don't think he is going to get in. But be on the lookout for James Mangold, I would say. Mangold could be that random 5th slot because of how the guilds could take to a complete unknown. And as you will see in a little bit of my predictions when we get to SAG, I really should be considering him. But I feel like since the movie came out a little bit too late, and I don't know how much people would view it as, like, it's obviously, what many people said, it's not one of his best films, like, when compared to, like, Ford versus Ferrari, or Logan, or maybe Walk the Line, because obviously, it really depends, because some critics, obviously, thought it was good, but not fantastic, but I feel like the guilds are really going to be taking a little bit more to a complete unknown, as we also saw in the BAFTA long list. So those are the 5 I'm going with, but Forjat and Mangold could take that 5th slot. I don't know if they would match DGA for the first time, because it was close in 2017, but they have not done it yet. As I mentioned, the Directors Guild their nominations will be announced on Tuesday. Wednesday will be the nomination announcements for the Screen Actors Guild, both TV and movies. I don't do TV, of course, so if you want to find TV nomination predictions or TV predictions in general, find somebody else's video, I will say. But Screen Actors Guilds are definitely going to be the bigger deal, especially when we saw the BAFTA long list of who could be missing. Might be a little bit of trouble for SAG, but then again, some people do miss SAG and BAFTA and still get the Oscar nomination, and sometimes they just don't even show up at any precursors like Penelope Cruz and Parallel Mothers, or Kristen Stewart missing SAG and BAFTA for Spencer, but she still got the Oscar nomination. So, there are a couple of people I have in SAG that I am not going for at the Oscars at the moment, because you got to keep in mind, there might be a lot of actors that might be friends of specific actors, especially in one category in particular. I feel like it is going to happen. And you also got to remember there is that one out of nowhere nomination they go at SAG, and I already know which one I am going with, because it has yet to happen in that category in particular yet, and I feel like that could be the out-of-nowhere slot. But any of these 5 acting slots could have the one out-of-nowhere nomination that just gets in at SAG, nowhere else, and still does not show up at the Oscars. And I already know which one I'm doing with. So for supporting actress, I have Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor in Nickel Boys, Selena Gomez in Amelia Perez, Ariana Grande in her lead performance in Wicked, Margaret Qualley in The Substance, and Zoe Saldana in Amelia Perez. I was a little bit hesitant of predicting Margaret Qualley here, because most of the time SAG doesn't usually, but it's more common in the leading categories. I think I stated this in my previous Oscar nomination prediction video, that they don't like to go much with a rookie nominee or somebody like that. You could say with Grande, but she did got a SAG Ensemble nomination for Don't Look Up, so I'm kind of confident Grande. I'm more confident in Gomez getting in here than Grande, because obviously Gomez has been nominated a lot in the TV side for Only Murders in the Building, so I think SAG will definitely go with that. Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, she did not get in for King Richard, and they still need to make that up, so if she gets in here for Nickel Boys, that's kind of a good status. So I have a little bit hesitant of taking Isabel Rossellini out for Conclave. I feel like BAFTA is still going to do it. Same thing with Felicity Jones, although she is in a little bit of trouble, but she did appear on the BAFTA long list. Deadweiler missed the BAFTA long list, and I'm not predicting her, although SAG is the best place for August Wilson film adaptations, because they really take to it, but I already have it giving it something else. But Deadweiler makes sense since she is the previous nominee, but since she missed the BAFTA long list, I don't know if she would make it or not. But be on the lookout for a complete unknown, if either Elle Fanning or Monica Barbario could get that 5th slot. I don't think that would mean that it's in, that just shows a complete unknown's more of a stronger candidate than we think it is. For supporting actor, I have Kieran Culkin in his lead performance in A Real Pain, Samuel Jackson in The Piano Lesson, Clarence Macklin in Sing Sing, Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, and Denzel Washington in Gladiator 2. Now, you might be asking myself, why the hell am I predicting Samuel Jackson here for The Piano Lesson? Obviously, I stated they kind of did take to August Wilson films more than any other award show, though I'm not predicting Deadweiler. But remember when I said, when I began with SAG, I stated that there is always that one random nomination that appears here at SAG, doesn't show up anywhere else. If you look at this decade, we had Amy Adams in Hillbilly Elegy in Best Actress. In 2021, there was Jennifer Hudson in Respect for Actress and Cate Blanchett in Nightmare Alley for Supporting Actress. 2022 was Adam Sandler getting in for Best Actor for Hustle, and last year was Penelope Cruz getting in for Best Supporting Actress for Ferrari. We have yet to see that happen in Supporting Actor in this decade. It could also happen in Actor, but I feel like there's going to be that one nomination that was considered like an early candidate at the very beginning of our awards nomination predictions and just shows up here in SAG just because actors love the person. I think that could be Samuel L. Jackson here for The Piano Lesson. That doesn't mean he would get the Oscar nomination. I just think because of how many actors are friends with him, they're going to probably give him the nomination just because of who he is. And the fact that it is, of course, an August Wilson performance. Even though I had stated for the second time I don't have Deadwire in here. But yeah, kicking out people like Guy Pearce was definitely a miss. I do think Tucci will still maybe get in a BAFTA, showing up the long list. I don't think Borisov would make it in here because, like I mentioned, they sometimes don't go much with big rookies. More common, I keep repeating that, but not much in common in the supporting categories like Troy Kotsur, and I'm going with Clarence Macklin. It's just that because of Sing Sing's ensemble is the bigger reason why Macklin's more safer to get in. And the fact that he got in for Causeway, maybe Brian Tyree Henry could be the out-of-nowhere nomination for The Fire Inside. Obviously, they're not going to nominate Germany Strong for The Apprentice because, obviously, a lot of members of SAG are liberal actors, so you're not going to see The Apprentice show up nowhere at the Guilds. For the insane tough Best Actress one, I feel like this is going to be the category when it comes to Oscar nominations that we're not going to know who the hell is going to be nominated. I'll be probably mentioning that when we get to that final nomination predictions. But so for actress, I have Amy Adams in Night Bitch, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, Nicole Kidman in Baby Girl, barely Mikey Madison in Honora, and Demi Moore in The Substance. Now, Madison is barely on that fifth slot for me as the most likely to get nominated here because, as I mentioned, they don't like to go much with rookie performance, especially in the leading categories. That's a reason why I don't have Carlos Sevilla Gascon in here for Emilia Perez, because a lot of members of SAG are friends with specific actors they love. Nicole Kidman especially, because the fact that she got in, not just for The Paperboy, but for Bombshell, that just shows that she's going to get in no matter what. Erivo, I think, will still be fine because of how much Wicked will do. I think Demi Moore is the more likely to get nominated here at SAG, and she could almost win this if Madison and Gaston miss. If they both miss SAG, then Moore could be the new Best Actress frontrunner. And I think because since they did nominate Amy Adams for Hillbilly Elegy, I think she will get in for Night Bitch. And the fact that she appeared on the short about the long list, I'm hesitant she might be that fifth slot that gets in for at the Oscars. And I'm still saying Erivo is the one that's going to get nominated everywhere, but this is the Oscar nomination. But that could be Carlos Sevilla Gascon, as I'm kind of also a little bit alluding to. But since I'm not predicting her, and there's I think 3 other candidates are more stronger than I think that could get in over Gascon and Madison because of the rookie status, like Pamela Anderson in Last Showgirl, Kate Winslet in Lee, and Angelina Jolie in Maria, especially since Jolie missed the BAFTA long list, which that was a big hit. But then again, and she could mean the same thing with Kristen Stewart. Now, it's very odd that I am predicting her to win the Golden Globe for Motion Actress in a Motion Picture Drama the night of specifically this video is being released. So it's interesting. I am predicting her to win the Globe, and if she doesn't win the Globe, she's in trouble. She would need that SAG nomination to be alive, but I feel like I'm worried for if Gascon or Madison both miss at SAG because of how many actors at SAG are friends with these veterans or they love a lot, like Jolie, Winslet, Kidman, Moore, Adams, Anderson. Erivo, I think it's going to be fine because the fact that she got in for Wicked, I think she's not really much of a huge front when it comes to SAG because she has only been more in the theater stage, but just the movie stage is kind of well, it's a little bit tough when it comes to this category because, oh gosh, even the BAFTA nominations are not going to help as much. Jean-Baptiste will get in BAFTA. I just don't think she won't make it here, but if she does at SAG, she might be the 5th slot. So whoever is going to show up here, this is going to make it even harder. Best Actor is what is going to be the Oscar lineup: Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet in Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig in Queer, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, and Ray Fiennes in Conclave. Sebastian Stan, obviously, since they are not going to nominate him for The Apprentice, if they would be, it would be, of course, for A Different Man. If they do want to give it real pain some love, maybe Eisenberg. I don't know what else is going to be in the contention here. It's just like, it's going to be the 5. Unless if there is the random nomination that appears here at SAG for actor as well, like Glenn Powell for Hitman, or John David Washington for The Piano Lesson, or Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley. I forgot what the full title is, because since they nominate Jennifer Hudson, respect is a possibility. On to the stunts ensemble. I have Alien Romulus, Civil War, Deadpool and Wolverine, Dune Part 2, and Gladiator. Now, you might be asking, why the hell am I not predicting Furiosa and Mad Max Saga? Well, although the BAFTA long list did a little bit better for the film, but geez, the American award shows are not really taking to Furiosa specifically. The critics, like, the Globes was not surprising, but Critics' Choice not nominating the technical categories, and it got shut out on the Oscar shortlist. That just shows probably the industry is not as big as Furiosa. They might even consider it maybe a bit overrated for them. And the fact that Alien Romulus showed up on the Oscar shortlist and Civil War showed up on the BAFTA long list, I think these two could be like the random ones. Now, Gladiator 2, Dune Part 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine, I think they're going to be the 3 ones that are going to stay. I don't know what else could show up here, but there was always that random weird nominations that occurs. So yeah, I think Furiosa, they continue the strain of how American award shows are not taken to Furiosa. Why not miss it for Stunt Ensemble as well? And for the best ensemble in general, I have Anora, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Sing Sing, and Wicked. I really think A Complete Unknown, if it is going to show up at Best Picture of the Oscars, and the fact that it did well the long list, the one category I think it's going to probably tell us the most is this, if it does get a SAG Ensemble nomination. Because obviously you have Chalamet, you have Edward Norton, you have Monica Barbaro, you have Fanning on the conversations of the individual acting prizes. That could do it. And the fact that Bohemian Rhapsody got in here, I'm also kind of hesitant with A Complete Unknown. I know Elvis didn't. Yeah, it didn't. So Elvis didn't do it, but I feel like because with those 4 actors specifically, within being in A Complete Unknown, I think that will do it. Sing Sing really needs to get this. If it doesn't, oh boy, it's out. Could be in trouble to get a Best Picture nomination. Now, I also am a bit curious how September 5th is going to do. Now, it got shut out of the BAFTA long list, but if it does show up here, I might be questioning it a bit, but it depends on the PGA nomination. Now, taking Amelia Perez out was probably the biggest mistake. Although they have obviously gave Parasite the ensemble win, and obviously have Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana in the cast, and even the BAFTA long list recognized another supporting performance and supporting actress. It might be, if many people are assuming Amelia Perez could be the Best Picture frontrunner, if there's one award that it would need to miss, like The Power of the Dog, it would have to be the SAG Ensemble Award. If they were legit, like more as focused as an ensemble, because recently, I think they've been more trying to be like the Oscars specifically, because a lot of SAG voters are Oscar voters, and I feel like Anora and Conclave would be the thing. Now, although I think Wicked is the most likely to be nominated, if Anora is the Best Picture frontrunner, I could see it winning. But then again, it could be like the Trial of the Chicago 7, so any of this is possible. The only thing I would just say is Wicked is going to be the only one that's going to be automatically safe. Because Sing Sing is in a little bit of trouble, especially not showing up at Best Picture at the BAFTAs, long list specifically, so we'll have to see how it goes. Now, on to the Writers Guild Awards, which they will be announced on Thursday. Now, you got to remember that there are a lot of films that would be ineligible in certain these categories, specifically here at the Guilds, mostly because either A, because they're not a member of the Guild specifically, or they have to write it as being a member of the Guild. Like Quentin Tarantino, Miranda McDonough are 2 obvious directors we know that are not members of the Writers Guild. So it is a little bit kind of difficult, but I think we kind of know what could be getting in, at least for WGA, and maybe in probably the bottom 10 conversation for the Oscars specifically. Now, like with the Directors Guild, there is a documentary screenplay category here at the Guilds, but no one doesn't even know what's going to get nominated, so we're just going to take that out of the conversation. So for adapted screenplay at the Writers Guild, I have A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Hitman, Nickel Boys, and Wicked. I think we are confident in the 4 that is going to get in here, because obviously films like Conclave, Emilia Perez are ineligible here, and I know a couple others I'm not thinking on the top of my head at the moment, but I almost have been considering Nosferatu in here, because you'll see what I did a little bit later on, but I feel like in terms of writing status, it might be Hitman and the fact that it is Richard Linklater. So I think because of who he is, I think the guilds are going to recognize him. It's just that 5th slot is probably open. Barry Jenkins is in the conversation for his movie, not his movie, but the movie he wrote, The Fire Inside, is a possibility. The Piano Lesson, August Wilson adaptations, the past 2 got in. Gladiator 2 is a possibility as well. Queer, there is a lot of support for Daniel Craig. If it gets in here, that kind of shows more support for Daniel Craig to get in for Best Actor for Minded Men. It's just, these 4 are the ones that are, the 4 I'm confident are the ones that are not going to go anywhere. And for original screenplay, I have Anora, Challengers, Civil War, Heretic, and A Real Pain. The fact that Hugh Grant has been getting a little bit in the conversation for Best Actor, not just also getting a Critics' Choice, but showing up at the BAFTA long list, and guaranteed he will probably get nominated. If there is going to be a showing status for Heretic somewhere in the guilds, it would probably be here. And same thing with the BAFTA long list. Civil War did so well on the BAFTA long list, I think it will show up here as well. It's just I'm confident in the first 3. So yeah, I'm taking a big risk of not nominating Saturday Night. The fact that it didn't show up at the Critics' Choice, I'm not confident in that. The Apprentice is eligible, actually. And it is a possibility it would show up here, and I'm actually predicting it at the moment for original screenplay at the BAFTAs, but obviously since this is an American awards show, they're not going to nominate it for their liberal beliefs. Juror number 2 is a possibility as well. That'd probably be the only time the film will ever get recognized throughout the televised awards season. Baby Girl is also a possibility, especially for Nicole Kidman and maybe Harris Dickinson for supporting actor at the BAFTAs. And Kinds of Kindness is also a possibility as well. But I'm confident in, I think, the 3 that I've got. It's just, I feel like because of how much support both movies have gotten the bigger industry stuff, I think Heretic will, especially if you're Hugh Grant for Heretic, and because of how well did the BAFTA long list, Civil War, I think, will be confident. I know that it only show up in the shortlist for visual effects at the Oscars and not sound, oddly enough. But I think because since Alex Garland wasn't recognized for Ex Machina, I think they are going to go for it here. And finally, we come into the Producers Guild Awards, which their nominations will be announced on Friday. And we already have the documentary feature nominees, but the other 2 featured film categories they have are Best Animated Feature and Best Picture. For some reason, the awards expert app does not have a Best Animated Feature prediction. For some reason, you can't do on the awards expert app for some reason. So I had to use like the favorites thing just to do this setup just to show you what I am predicting for the Producers Guild. So for the Producers Guild for animated feature, I have Despicable Me 4, Inside Out 2, Moana 2, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. Now, you might be wondering, for all those, everyone would be wondering, where is Flo and Memoir of a Snail? Now, you got to keep in mind, if there is one award show that it is very tough for independent animated features to get nominated, is the Producers Guild. They rarely get nominated. I think the only independent film that ever got nominated, I believe, was Wolfwalkers. Anomalisa didn't do it. I know Flea got the documentary nomination, but it didn't get the animated nomination so it didn't get a double nomination. Did Marcel the Shell with Shoes On got in here last? Yeah, so only Wolfwalkers and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On are the only 2 independent films that have gotten in this lineup. So maybe with Flo or Memoir of a Snail. I think Memoir of a Snail might be the least one out of the 5 that are going to show up at the Oscars that won't show up here. Maybe flow with the Giannis thing, but I don't know if it will. And one thing to note, out of all the award shows for animated feature, the Producers Guild is probably the only one that views it more as a box office award or a financial one instead of how good the film is. Not just, I also have Moana 2 in here, but one thing to note, the Producers Guild always nominate Illumination every year when they release a movie, with the exception of the Lorax, of course. All the Despicable Me films have gotten in here. The first three and both the Minions movies got in here. They always nominate an Illumination film every year just because of the box office, and that's the reason why I have Despicable Me 4 here. Kung Fu Panda 4 could also show up here. Transformers 1 and Piece by Piece probably really needs this, but I think because since they view it more as a box office thing, more so than how good the movie is, that's the reason why I have Despicable Me 4 and Moana 2 getting in here. Inside Out 2, I think, is the most likely to get nominated here. Wallace and Gromit might be the least likely, but Aardman had been nominated, I believe, before. Because Curse of the Were-Rabbit, I believe, was the first winner in this cat when they did the anime. Yeah, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, since that film was the first winner for the animated feature out of the Producers Guild, I think they are going to recognize Vengeance Most Foul, especially Netflix being a part of it, so... Yeah, so as I stated, the Producers Guild is hard for the independent films to get in, but if they both show up here over Moana 2 or Despicable Me 4, then we are pretty much covered what the Oscar nominees are, even though we already know what the 5 are. But that would just show more strength for both of the indie films to get nominated. Now we get into Best Picture of the Producers Guild. Now, one thing that did occur last year was the very first time since the expansion, if you go by the 10 out of 10 thing, with the Oscars, like when they obviously did 2009 and 10, but like from 2021 through now, last year, that was the first time the PGA lineup matched what would become the Oscars lineup. But I don't think that's not going to be a yearly thing, I would say, because there would be a couple of differences that sometimes the Producers Guild will have that it is at the Oscars, and there might be a couple of smaller films I feel like could potentially miss the Producers Guild. I'm confident in 8, but it's just the 2 random ones I have that are not getting in, that I don't have for Best Picture of the Oscars are the ones that I think the Producers Guild will go with. Most likely for box office wise, as I kind of mentioned, or how big the movies are, because if they show up in the Producers Guild lineup, at least they will most likely be an Oscar nominated movie. And that's what the latter 2 I have as the 9th and 10th slot, that they will show up at least in the technical categories at the Oscars. So for the Best Picture of the Producers Guild, I have Nora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. Gladiator 2 and Nosferatu are the 2 I think will get in PGA, and that would just shows it won't be the signs for them to get in for Best Picture, but at least to get in, showing up at the Oscar somewhere, like especially in the technical categories. And I kind of have mentioned this in my November predictions. I think Gladiator 2 would be like Black Panther Wakanda Forever at the Oscars, although there might be a little bit of a different comparison depending on how my final predictions go. But yeah, so that means I had took out Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, and Sing Sing, and especially Challengers. I really should be putting Challengers in here, but with The Substance being a strong candidate at the BAFTA long list, I feel like it has to show up here just to show how big the industry is. If it doesn't, and Challengers does, then I still think The Substance will be fine, because, as I stated, PGA doesn't usually match most of the time, except for last year, so, that's the thing. If Nickel Boys doesn't show up at PGA or Sing Sing, like if Sing Sing misses PGA and SAG, then it's not getting in for Best Picture at the Oscars. A Real Pain could be the possibility, but then you got to really think. Also, September 5th is also a possibility. It would be nice for The Wild Robot to show up, but to get a double nomination, but I don't think that's not going to happen, especially since it probably is out of the conversation for adapted screenplay after missing the BAFTA long list. So, yeah, those are, I think I'm only confident if there's 6 other candidates that could come in here. So, the 2, based on my Oscar predictions at the moment, I think Nosferatu and Gladiator 2 won't show up at Best Picture of the Oscars, but they will show up at the Producers Guild lineup. And that will kind of do it for my guild prediction video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on the awards expert app at BrideCrowell. And the next award show video will be my winner predictions for the Critics' Choice Awards.